Okay, we'll go ahead and begin. I want to welcome everybody and thank you for taking the time to be on this conference call. My name is Seth Ressler. I am the founder of the social dining group Mystery Meat. I am the host of the Fine Dining Podcast, which is a podcast where we interview food bloggers from all over the country and talk to them about their local culinary scene. And I am now also the producer of Taste Trekkers, which aims to be the nation's first food tourism conference. And of course, that's what this call is for, and that's what we're talking about today. This is the call to kick off our final week of our Kickstarter project to raise the capital to make Taste Trekkers happen. So I'm very aware that this needs to be my inspirational sort of clear eyes, full hearts can't lose speech. So thank you all for taking the time to join me. And like I said, we're going to be recording this call, and we will post it online for those who couldn't make it. I will take questions at the end. So when we get to the end of this call, if you have a question that I haven't addressed or answered, by all means, I'll give you the opportunity to ask it and talk about it. I am going to talk a little bit about what the conference is. I will give a little bit of background about the history of the conference and how this all came to be. I will talk a bit about the Kickstarter campaign and an assessment of where we are and what we need to do in the final week of the Kickstarter campaign. And then, then I think I'll open it up for questions and go from there. I'll start by saying this. I am a veteran of the music business. For those of you who are from the Rhode Island area, I actually started at 95.5 WBRU when I was a college student at Brown, and then I came back and ran it for 3 years as the program director. And in the meantime was all over the country, St. Louis, Seattle, Boston, New York, a number of other places. And what I always loved about the different cities was this idea that the rock scene was just a little bit different. You would get things like the Amazing Royal Crowns, who were really big in Providence, or the Mighty Mighty Bosstones and the Dropkick Murphys, who were big in Boston. If you go out west, where I grew up, it's Oingo Boingo and Estrama Rama. And I always loved that every city had its own unique culture and its unique signature. And when I started doing the Fine Dining Podcast and started interviewing food bloggers from all over the country, I found that the same thing exists in food, that every city has its own unique sort of signature foods and cultures. And again, those of you from Rhode Island will know well that you've got the Mayor's Own marinara sauce, and you've got Rhode Island-style calamari, and you've got Dell's Lemonade, and you've got Cabinets, and you've got Jimmy's, and all kinds of things like that. You go out to St. Louis, for example, where I lived for a little while, and you've got Emo's Pizza, which is this pizza that has this funky Provel cheese on top of it, and they've got this thing called toasted ravioli, which is really just deep-fried ravioli that everybody has, and their version of Dell's Lemonade is a Ted Drew's Concrete, and I started to find that this was true in every city that I talked to, and I thought it was really cool, and I loved it, and I loved the idea that every city had its own signature. And that's where the idea for the Taste Trekkers conference came from, a food tourism conference, was I wanted an event that would show off all the different cuisines from different regions and give ideas to people about places that they could go to find out and explore new cuisines. It was basically about exploring the world and even just the country through cuisine, and I love that idea. And so I started working on it, and I started putting that together. The truth is, when I first started thinking about this event, I was not looking at Providence, Rhode Island. I had launched Mystery Meat in Boston and had a big sort of following or database in Boston, and so that made the most sense. I am also living at the moment in the San Francisco Bay Area, so San Francisco was also a place I considered. And then I was listening to other food podcasts, and I actually heard Kristen Adamo from the Providence Convention and Visitors Bureau being interviewed. And she was talking about Providence, and she was talking about how it had such a great emerging food scene and that it was being recognized by Travel and Leisure magazine and all of the great, exciting things that were going on. And I literally had this moment where I facepalmed my forehead, and I said, duh, why didn't I think about that? I had lived 11 years in Providence. I'd run one of the media outlets there. I'd run an event production company there. I had a lot of relationships there. It made a lot of sense, but it also made sense on a cuisine level. And in fact, it was following something that I was finding in the podcast, which is that in a lot of what you would consider secondary markets or smaller cities, there's some really exciting things going on in the culinary scenes and in the cuisines. That when you look at Portland, Oregon, when you look at St. Louis, when you look at Memphis, there's just some awesome things that the chefs there are doing. And that cuisine really isn't just about New York and Vegas and San Francisco anymore. And I think that was very much embodied the sort of the spirit that I wanted to capture with the event. And so I decided that absolutely Providence made perfect sense. And so I called Kristen Adamo. I had actually worked with her before on an event in 2009 on a culinary event called The World of Flavors, which I'll talk a little bit about later. And I pitched the idea to her, and she was incredibly supportive and thought it was a great idea. Kristen is the person who puts together Restaurant Week there in Providence, and so she loves anything that has to do with restaurants. So she may have been an easy sell. But she's been fantastically supportive through the process, and we never would have been able to get this far without her. But that's really how the idea for the event came about. Our goal in the first year is really to run a modest but successful event. This is an event where we're looking to bring in a few hundred people, probably about 300. And my goal is to have everybody come in, have a great time, and say, that was wonderful, let's do it again next year, only bigger. Having run an event production company for a couple of years, I think one of the things that I learned was that these events are best when you start off small and grow them over time. So our goal is to really, I don't think it's going to be a big moneymaker by any stretch in the first year. In fact, our goal is to not lose money in the first year, and our goal really, we'll call it a success if there is a second year. Then we will have had a successful first year. And here's what the event is going to look like. Friday, September 20th. And let me tell you a little bit about the date. We looked at dates in the fall. And when we looked at dates, there were only two available. One was in September and one was in November. After you took out all of the parents' weekends, because there's a lot of colleges in Providence, and you took out all the weddings that are at the hotels, and you took out all the sort of other things that are going on, homecomings and whatnot, there were 2 weekends. And we had a choice, either September and risk there being a water fire. And I'll talk about what water fire is if you're not from the Providence area and don't know. Or we could do it in November and risk snow. And we chose to do it in September and risk water fire. We felt that made the most sense for the event. So on Friday, September 20th, we are looking at a cocktail reception. And I know Dave Tadakian's on this call, and when I interviewed him for the Fine Dining podcast last week, he talked about all the great things that are going on in the craft cocktail scene in Rhode Island. And so I think this is really an opportunity to show some of that off, because there really are some great things going on there. There's a couple of guys in Rhode Island, Frank Martucci, who's now the National Vice President of the United States Bartenders Guild, and Mike Lester, who works for M.S. Walker, and his family runs the Dorrance. They've done some fantastic things for the cocktail scene in Rhode Island, and so we wanted an opportunity to show that off. And it's also just a great opportunity for foodies to come in and mingle with each other. And I have found at these events that foodies really love to mingle. And we may look at group dinners on that Friday night as well. That's something that is not set in stone but is looking probable. Those group dinners will follow the format of mystery meat dinners because we know we're getting adventurous foodies in, so we'll break down into groups of 10 to 15, and they'll be at various restaurants all over the city, and people will go in, and there will be a set price that includes your meal, your tax, and your tip, but not your drinks. You'll be able to go in and have a meal and just be social, and then we just ask that the restaurants accommodate for everybody's dietary restrictions. So that's what we're looking at for Friday night. Saturday, we're really excited about. Saturday is going to take place in the Biltmore, which is this beautiful hotel downtown, primarily in the Grand Ballroom of the 17th floor, which is this beautiful space that overlooks all of downtown. It's the type of space that they normally hold weddings in, and it's just fantastic. So when it came time to selecting a keynote speaker, there was one guy that I wanted. We very much wanted somebody who reflected the local culinary scene, and one of the hottest chefs in the state of Rhode Island is Matt Jennings, who is from Farmstead. And Matt has just won numerous accolades. He's a young guy, but he's absolutely up and coming. He was just shortlisted for the second year in a row by the James Beard Award Foundation for Best Chef Northeast. He won the Koshan 555 competition, which just happened again over this weekend in Boston. He won that 3 years in a row and retired himself. And he has won a number of other accolades, and so we thought he'd be the perfect speaker. And he was the first person I went after, and I was thrilled when he agreed to do it. So we're absolutely very excited about that. What happens next is the breakout sessions. And one of the things that I'm very aware of with this conference is that the breakout sessions are really what's going to make it different from just a food festival. And really I want to do something that is different than a food festival. We want to do the nation's first food tourism conference and really blend travel and food and look at the intersection of the two of them. And the breakout sessions are really what's going to do that. So whereas a lot of the other events I think will show off Rhode Island to an extent and might not be quite as much about travel, the breakout sessions are where that's really going to shine through. And there were some questions about what we're looking for in those breakout sessions. We actually did a survey and asked people, what they were looking for. And I was curious about a few things. One of the things I was curious about was what regions people wanted us to cover. Were people expecting us to do a food tourism conference, and did they want it to be all international? Were they looking for Australia and Spain and Argentina? Or could it be New England? Were they looking for the Vermont Cheese Trail? Were they looking for, things that are going on in Maine and within driving distance? And I really had no idea. And I saw a lot more interest in New England than I expected. There was actually strong interest in stuff happening in New England and within driving distance. So I think there's going to be a big chunk of stuff that will be featured in each of those breakout sessions, or most of the breakout sessions will follow the pattern of this cuisine from this region. And I think a lot of that will be from the New England region or places within driving distance or places that are relatively easy for people coming to the conference to get to. We expect that in the first year, most of the people who come to the conference will be from the New England area, and so that there will be a lot of interest in New England. Having said that, we are going to do some sessions that will focus on places that are farther away, and we haven't outlined all of them. But we very well may do something that talks about the seafood of the Pacific Northwest or the barbecue of the South, or even go overseas, and talk about what cuisine is big in Brussels, for example. We have announced 4 of the sessions. I should say the one other thing that we did learn in the surveys was that people are very interested, far and away, in hearing from chefs, that they really want to hear from the people who are preparing and cooking the food more than just any other type of speaker. And so really when we are looking to book these sessions, I'm looking to get chefs involved. If it is a speaker who is not a chef, I'm usually asking them to pair with a chef. Or bring a chef in as part of their presentation when they lead the session, because that's really what people want to hear from. The other thing that we're really trying to do is get food or sampling into each of these sessions of some kind. So that's always a big plus. We've announced 4 already. And the first is actually about the chocolate of Madagascar. And we have Tim Brown, who is going to be leading that session. Tim is a culinary instructor at Johnson & Wales, which has a fantastic culinary program and is based there in Providence. He's also a South African native. He has prepared cuisine for, among other people, Nelson Mandela and other heads of state. And he was the manager of Arawa Fine Chocolate in Boston. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've only read it up to this point. And he, he's just been preparing chocolate all over the world, and we wanted to bring him in, and we thought that would be a really interesting session. The second session that we've announced is all about Bolivian and Peruvian cuisine, and this comes on a recommendation by actually Gail Chiampa, who is the food editor over at the Providence Journal, and was very heartily endorsed by Dave Tadakian when we were talking on the podcast the other night. These are two brothers who are Bolivian natives, and they have this fantastic little place in Providence that would be described as a hole in the wall, but I think it's grown quite a bit, very rapidly in the couple of years since they've opened it. They're now building a brand new ceviche bar. I actually like to quote Dave Tadakian on this because he described the ceviche as the best he's ever had, and it's fantastic. And so they're going to come in and do a session on Bolivian and Peruvian cuisine. We're going to do a session on the history of rum throughout New England. And this is going to be led by Frank Martucci from the Bartenders Guild in Twin River, who I mentioned earlier, as well as Brent Ryan, who is the master distiller for Thomas II Rum, which is brewed down in Newport. Brent is also one of the founders of Extreme Coastal Brewing, which brews Newport Storm. So we're very excited to have them come in and talk about rum really from the beginning of New England, through Prohibition and all the way into modern day. And then the last session that we've announced is about this really cool program, which is called the Trace and Trust program, which has been launched its pilot program and been running its pilot program in Providence, Rhode Island. This is a program that actually allows a diner at a restaurant to track where their fish came from back to the fishermen who caught it. So you can actually see where the meal on your plate came from. And they've been running this program for a while, and a number of chefs, notably Derek Wagner of Nick's on Broadway, have been involved in it. And they are now expanding that program to go beyond just fish and to cover livestock and other things as well. If you remember reading in the news about the Squid Ink QR code, that was part of the promotional campaign for this event and for this program. And we're just really excited to have them come in, and they'll bring fishermen and farmers and restaurateurs, and they'll all be part of that session to talk about that very cool program. So we've announced those four. Those are the only four we are going to announce before the end of the Kickstarter campaign, and then we've got a few weeks after the Kickstarter campaign concludes to find other speakers. We have an ongoing call for speakers, and we've received a number of submissions. We're going to have more people who want to speak than we do speaking slots, which is a very good position for us to be in, and we're excited about because it really means that we're going to be able to pick sort of the best of the best to come out in this event. And so we think those breakout sessions are going to be fantastic, going to be really exciting. After the breakout sessions, we've got the tasting pavilion. So we'll set up 50 tables up in that grand ballroom overlooking Providence, and people will be able to walk around and mingle and taste food from different local artisanal producers and different restaurants and different wineries and breweries, and talk to other people who are involved in the culinary tourism industry in various ways. And so we think that will be very exciting. One of the things which we have not published online yet, and we are working on, is a panel discussion that could happen after the tasting pavilion. And we're looking at doing sort of a Q&A session that would really focus around practical tips for planning a great culinary vacation. And that's still coming together, which is why I haven't really posted it online. But that's something that could very well happen, and then we're excited about. At the moment, we are leaving Saturday night open because it looks like there may be a water fire Saturday night. And if you're not familiar with Waterfire is probably the signature event for the city of Providence. It's this fantastic, it's been going for over a decade at this point, and it's this fantastic event where Providence has a river running through the center of it, and they light these torches that go down the river, and they've got gondolas and things like that go down the river, and it just becomes this beautiful music and food and arts festival, and I like to use the word European to describe it. There's just this very European feel to it, and the entire city comes out, and it's a really just a great, fun, fantastic time, and we decided early on that if there was going to be a water fire that night, that we were just going to leave the night of the conference open and let people go to that and let people really experience that signature event for the city of Providence. We're in close contact with the water fire folks, and we're communicating with them well, and so we have a good idea of what's going on. And if there isn't water fire that night for any reason, we will probably move the group dinners from Friday to Saturday night. So that is Saturday. And then Sunday, we are looking at doing a food truck circle right there across from the Biltmore Hotel in Kennedy Plaza, and just lining up a bunch of food trucks and letting people sample from all the different food trucks. And we're also looking at doing a number of walking culinary tours. I know Cindy Salvato's on the call, and she's actually been fantastic and incredibly helpful in planning all of this, and she's been an invaluable resource in putting this conference together. And she's going to be one of the people who is going to lead culinary walking tours that day. She's got a great culinary tour of Federal Hill, which is the historic Italian neighborhood, which is known for its Italian cuisine. So she'll lead a tour up there. We have Mike Martini from Newport Gourmet Tours, who has a Providence River tour that he'll do, and we have a number of other walking culinary tours that we're putting together as well. A Taste of Rhode Island is talking about putting together a bus tour as well that we'll have that morning. So that's Sunday, and that's 3 days of a fantastic event. We are going to sell tickets to each of those events separately, and of course there'll be a package deal if you want to put them all together as one whole weekend. But the idea is we understand that people may want to cherry pick what they want to go to, so they may want to come for Friday and Saturday, or come for Saturday and Sunday, or come for the whole thing, and so we want to price it accordingly and make that possible. And so we're putting that all together. All of those tickets will be available for cheaper through Kickstarter rewards. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the Kickstarter campaign.